And hi, my name is Kevin.
Yeah, okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we're live. You're tuning to Cosmic Children today.
Hi, my name is Kevin and I'm your host. We have a special guest with us today.
Special guest today. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we're live. You're tuning into Cosmic Children. I'm your host, Kevin. And today, I have a special guest in the studio with me.
Oh, hell
Special
yeah.
guest. Could you please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Kevin.
As
if I'm the genius mastermind behind this podcast. No, my name is Nicholas.
Okay.
I am a painter and an installation artist. And for those of you who don't know, I was also a co-host quite a while back.
Yeah, like way back.
Way back. Good times.
So you do a lot of things.
I try.
What have you been busy with these days?
Well, COVID has been wild, right?
Okay.
It's been insane. I think a lot of things have changed. Prior to COVID, I was doing quite a number of commercial installations, or at least I was having conversations about doing commercial installations, which could be like brand activations or different things for different campaigns or for different people. I think once COVID happened, that kind of dipped, which is predictable, right? You can't meet as much. Everyone's kind of like refiguring out what to do with their brands, with their identities. So I started to look a lot more at myself and my practice. To expand a bit on my practice, there are essentially like a few facets to it, which is that I have a core, which I make my artworks, which are essentially the culmination of my lived experience, which results in my sensibility, my personal sensibility.
Okay.
And that personal sensibility is something that I apply into the works that I make. So those are probably like centric around where I'm at in my life. And then I have all these like commercial gigs, and I have these like collaborations, and the way I see them as I look at it like experiences that sort of contribute to the growth and development of said sensibility.
Okay.
So I think when life started stagnating with COVID, we were all stuck at home, we couldn't go out, we were all like in the same place. Life started to get a bit more like mundane and clinical.
Yep. Repetitive, really.
Repetitive, definitely. So I essentially took the time to like introspect and relook at where I'm at. And just it was like serendipitous timing. I started working with a gallery, Yavuz, and they were talking about solo show. So as I was doing this introspection, I was making all these works. A solo show came into the works, which allowed me to sort of like set some sort of timeline for myself. And this was last year. This was like for the second half of last year. And essentially I spent the whole second half of last year trying to like figure out how to put everything that I have become up to that point into a body of works that cohesively embodies everything that I was trying to look at. Like ideas of movement or light, whatever, static or moving or whatever. Yeah. And into like a cohesive body of works that when shown together kind of like encapsulates this affective environment that kind of has an impact. It changes the space and it changes the viewer's perception of the space. Yeah. Yeah. So I essentially did that up till February. Yeah, the show was in January for Singapore Arts Week, and to an amazing crowd that came. It was spectacular. And then in February the show ended, and basically since then I've been re-looking at that process. I mean, the first solo show is kind of like, in my opinion, like a somewhat easy one. No one knows really what to expect, and I don't know what to expect, so I just put out whatever I feel is right at that time. And now when I think about where my practice is going, I guess it's re-looking again at how my life has changed since then, and looking at the new experiences that I'm making now, and thinking of how I want to sort of reconcile everything together cohesively. Yeah, without completely abandoning like the original train of thought and the original concepts that I had approached, because those are, core to my practice. Yeah.
When you say that your practice revolves around your lived experience, are you thinking about yourself as an individual, or are you thinking about like a persona they are trying to showcase different facets of this particular personality that is external to you?
See, I love that question, because I believe that personas we put on are part of ourselves. It's like something we can't escape from. So, I think at the end of the day, when I look at myself, I know that when I'm in particular settings, I like to put on particular masks. It's not for like any malicious reason. I think sometimes it's just you want to feel like you fit in, or sometimes you want to feel like you don't want to stand out too much, or sometimes you do want to stand out, so you put on more of a different flamboyant kind of mask, theatrical kind of mask. I think at the end of the day, these whatever role or like whatever shoes I put myself in, I know that I cannot escape from the fact that somewhere in there, it comes from a personal sensibility.
So there's even part of you, and
there's part of me in everything I do. Even the things that I think are not me has to come from me. Do you understand?
Are you talking about like the things you dislike?
Yeah. I mean, like my interpretation of a person that is, say, if I wanted to be the center of attention, I don't really, but if I do want to be the center of attention, then it means that it comes from my interpretation of someone that's the center of attention.
Like your idea of it.
My idea of it, which has to come from somewhere.
Yep.
And it probably comes from some sort of experience that I've lived, right? So it could be a movie that I've watched. It could have people that I've seen. That's still me. So I think at the end of the day, you could call it like putting on masks or putting on personas, putting on identities, but it really is somehow or the other coming from an experience that you've lived. It's still you. Yeah, it's the same thing with like artworks. I don't know, not even artworks. It could be the way you talk to people, or the way you cook. These things tend to be, I think, like everything you do kind of like is an emulation of everything you've learned and everything you've seen. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Were you conscious of this while developing your practice, not just for the show, but throughout your journey, or did a revelation like this come only recently after the show?
I think the way I've looked at... No, I think I've kind of... Okay, when I was younger, I didn't really know who I was. I was like, I think most teenagers go through this, right? You don't know who you are. You don't know what your place is. As I got like a little bit older and I moved environments, like when I went from high school to art school, and you get a perspective change. That's when you realize that, hey, that doesn't matter. It's not that you find your place. It's just that that's not really necessary.
Hopefully you realize that.
Hopefully one realizes
that.
I was like, shit, what the fuck am I doing? Like this doesn't matter at all.
Like the grades in school?
Could be the grades, could be the way you interact with people, people's value systems, where people's backgrounds, right? If you're stuck or surrounded by the same kind of people for an extended period of time, you're going to think that the world is like that, but that's really not true. So I think as I, every time I jumped, I went from like high school to art school to army, back to art school, studying a different thing altogether. Like it culminatively presents like a perspectives that changes how you think about this. I mean, I don't think there was a particular point where I was like, you know what? Everything we do is a culmination of who we are. But I think it was more like everything I do kind of like I'm already doing for myself or as an extension of myself. So I guess maybe in the back of my head, there's always like, like artworks or like doing things is a very personal thing. Anything you do is very personal, even the mundane stuff,
Mm-hmm.
the way you drive, people drive differently,
Yeah.
you know, and that's cool. That's why I like to see in the world around me, is like how people react to things, how people's sensibility leads them to treat the world around them. And I think that's creativity.
That's creativity.
I think that's creativity.
Okay.
I don't think creativity is this like elusive mystery, you know, this Pandora's box that you open, you're like, oh fuck yeah, you know, I fucking got it. Creativity.
Now for $9.99.
No. I think it's inside everybody, and I think it's just like some people, you know, maybe like sometimes we kind of like fetishize it, or we make it out to be this thing that's you know, something else. It's not everybody has it, but no, creativity isn't everybody.
Why do you think we romanticize the idea of creativity, or even like the artists?
Because we love good stories, right? And say like Van Gogh, you know, bless his soul.
What happened to him?
Van Gogh. Yeah, I mean, he was a painter at a time when no one was really interested in what he was doing, and I guess lived a life that where he was kind of slighted for it, you know, seen as unruly and crazy and eccentric and undesirable. But you know, after his death and the tragic story that accompanied his works became wildly popular, you know, and it's a story that's a moving story. I think yeah, I remember watching a Doctor Who episode on it. Oh, dude.
Is it the one where
tears, man?
The doctor brought Van Gogh to the museum?
Yeah. The doctor brought Van Gogh to the Van Gogh Museum, and oh god, it's like, oh man, oh my heart.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a tragic story, but I think at the end of the day, that's why people tend to put creative, that idea of like, oh, starving artists.
Yep.
You know, like, oh, like if you're an artist, you must be suffering. Right?
Yeah.
You gotta suffer to be an artist or something like that.
You have to flagellate yourself like every day just for an idea to come out.
Oh, dude, he looks like his life is hard, you know, and he must be a good artist. His life is hard. I do not doubt that there are amazing artists with hard lives. I just think that it's not so much about it being hard. I think it's just about it being colorful. You've got a life that, and I don't mean colorful as in like bright and happy. I mean like colorful as in a life full of flavor, you know? Okay. It could be sour, it could be spicy, it could be sweet.
Yep.
And it's a life that's full of color, you know? It's got a lot to it. And I think like when you're an individual that puts yourself in a position to experience a lot of things, you know, even things that you think might be bad, you start to have a broader view of the world, and it could be as small as, I hate celery, so I'm going to eat a stick of celery, and be like, oh god, I hate celery, and be like, oh, but I made myself eat a stick of celery, and you're like, yeah, I know why I hate celery. You know, I hate the taste, I hate the texture, or whatever. And you're like, okay, you know, and if someone likes it, you know why they like it. Maybe it's for the same reasons you hate it, and that's fine, you know, and you're just like, oh, okay, cool.
So going back to your solo show that you did recently, how would you describe that particular flavor then? How was the experience like going into it?
How was the experience?
Yeah, for the first time, walking through it.
I didn't believe it was going to happen until the works were on the wall.
What does that mean? Like because of COVID, they were not able to show it? Like,
I guess I'm very skeptical about the actuality of things until they happen.
Fair enough.
So like the solo exhibition was kind of like an idea in my head. It was like a fantasy, you know, something you have wet dreams about.
Okay.
and then you're like, oh my god, someone asked me to do it. You know, I get to do my wet dreams.
Yeah.
And then you're there, and you're like, you go to the gallery, you look at the walls, you look at the current show that's on hang, and you're like, oh man, like so many ideas, right? And then when you're there and you put up the show, you're like, shit, it's happening, you know, like haha, my work's on the wall. What you gonna do?
Yeah.
You can't kick me out now.
Yeah.
But it was more like, yeah, like, whoa, okay, it's happening. It's really like, this is the way I can see my works now.
Yep.
You know? And I think it was very, very surreal. In my shows, I'm a little bit shy, so I don't like to like approach people and tell them like, hey, I'm the artist.
Okay.
You know, I prefer to have conversations with whoever about what they think. And it's not because like I'm trying to evade talking about my works, but it's because it genuinely interests me how something that I've created about perception and about experiences and perceptual precepts.
What is that?
Perceptual precepts is like essentially the conditioning of like how you look at the world. So
like a frame?
Yeah. They kind of set like a framework and like a premise for how you perceive everything.
Yeah.
So I love that. I'm super interested in that. And but that means that I can't just tell you about why
it's like giving
or
you the
how.
answer, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
and then that forms your precepts. And I don't want that.
Yep.
So I love having these conversations, and I prefer it when people like sort of treat me like just another person, you know, talking about an experience. And then when they share their experience, then, you know, and they realize that, oh, I made these things, you know, I created these things, that then there's a conversation about, you know, the differences or the similarities in perception. It's not like I'm placing myself on a pedestal above anybody else. I'm just another dude just doing stuff. The only difference is that it's in a space that allows you to look at it together. Yeah, so that's how I at least like to treat it. It's not, I mean, it was mind-blowing to have so many people look at it, and then it kind of like, it was on TikTok. I don't have TikTok, but it was on TikTok. It was on Twitter. I don't have Twitter either.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like people sending me like, hey dude, like you're trending, or
you're
like,
trending.
Yeah, you're trending, or you're like someone's post of your stuff was trending, or like, oh, I saw your exhibition on the For You page. Yeah, it was really like cool, you know, and like people were like, oh, I want to go for a date here. I was like, wow,
why?
Yeah. I mean, like, whoa, all right.
Yeah.
I guess my work kind of has some romance vibes to it.
Okay.
You know, and like, sure, yeah, I get it. Like that, like people look at things differently. That's the beauty in it. You know, like I think at the end of the day, like it's not our similarities that ties us together. It's the appreciation of our differences. Yeah. And like when everyone looks at the world differently, then all the more that becomes more important, I think. Yeah.
Would you say that the show is a success? Or conversely, would you say that no, it's not a success, but you're satisfied with it?
Wow. Success. You know, I don't have an idea what success is.
Fine one.
I mean, I was like, I think I was very happy with the show. It really felt like the culmination of things that I've been working up towards. They were works that I was going to do anyways.
Okay.
You know? It was like the premise of a solo show didn't change the works. I don't plan my works. Yeah, I make them on the spot with like nothing. You know? The painting process is so intuitive. It's like hard. The painting really only starts when I start randomly squirting paint onto a palette, like which is essentially a table for me, and then I'll just see where it goes from there.
Did it give you something to work towards?
It gave me a timeline. Okay. But it didn't give me an objective. Okay. You know, the works were going to be made anyways. And it's kind of like an inherent like itch, you know, to make works. It's like, even if this wasn't my job, even if this was like a hobby, yeah, I'll still make works. I'll still make stuff because like it's so, it's who it's a little bit strange to say it's who I am, but it is who I am.
Yeah, it could be.
It really is like, it's like telling stories about yourself. sometimes when you meet your friends, you're like, oh yeah, you know, like this happened to me this week, this happened to me this month,
Yeah.
you know, and you're telling someone your story. It's kind of like the same thing, except like I don't think my works are stories, like literally telling you about me.
Yep.
But it presents like a mirror or portal into a capacity for someone to see themselves.
So it's like a reflection.
Could be a reflection.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a starting point. It's a departure point.
Mm.
I think that's what like my works are for me, like departure points for potential.
So what was challenging about this particular showcase?
I think what was challenging was okay. To be frank, the entire process wasn't 6 months of me like slaving away in the studio, painting hard.
That would have been very romantic.
Shredded clothes, billowing winds, you know, like it wasn't like that. No,
Okay.
no. I actually had a lot of time. Heck, like 6 months is not a lot of time, I think, for a solo show, depending on how you work.
Yep.
But I had a lot of time in between. And the hardest part, I think, for me, the most time consuming part isn't actually the painting process, it's the looking.
What do you mean the looking?
So like when you've created something, or as you're creating something, that observing how it's growing, how it's evolving, where it's what it's becoming and where it's going, that's probably like the hardest part, especially when you have a process that's completely intuitive. If I had like a blueprint, I could just like, oh, okay, I just put it together. Like I know this is what I'm gonna make already. When you don't have any sort of structure and you're just kind of like nose diving into like this like intuition, this instinct. You're letting the paint lead you. You're letting the brush lead you.
Okay.
You're letting your body lead you. It takes a bit more time, I think, for me to just like look at things and not feel like the sense of urgency. So, I mean, I would say like, it was a bit turbulent last year. Yeah, like, you know, like it wasn't all peaches and cream, right? It wasn't all like sweet and like nice.
Yeah.
It was a pretty rough time for me, you know. This is coming out of lockdown into a global pandemic with so much uncertainty. And, you know, everyone, and it's not just me that's feeling this, everybody's feeling this. Everybody's on edge. Relationships break down, friendships break down, new friendships are forged, and like everything becomes different. The premise for friendships are different, you know.
Were those things on your mind while... Were you contemplating those things while you were in the process of creating it?
I don't think it was like active contemplation, but it was more like, these are things at the back of my head.
Yeah.
These are now like things that are part of me, you know, and they definitely feed into the work, you know. They definitely feed into like a certain like sense of self.
Okay.
You know, now we all have different experiences or different perceptions of the same experience. You know, and it's like when I make a work, it's like what does that look like? And I really think it only comes out from me when it's done intuitively. If I methodically think of what an abstract concept like an infinitely varying perception of the same thing looks like, I wouldn't have an answer for you. I don't know what that looks like.
Because you don't want to know, or you don't want to figure it out? If not, it will lose its magic. Or does it just come?
I think like creating something that like becomes inherently representative of an idea, of a concept like that, to me becomes contrived, because then it's like, oh, like some people will recognize it. And then that object becomes another thing that you create varying perceptions of.
Okay.
So like when I was creating like these abstractions, it was very much like, oh yeah, like, well, it's me, and it's, you know, like this contrast in color, this shape and form. Suddenly, like, why do I need to feel like like forms are caged behind things? Why do I need to feel like I need to trap light within a space? You know, like they become like a little bit more open-ended. And inherently open-ended. So people can look at things differently. You know, like everyone's looking at the same thing, making different experiences out of it or different perceptions. But it's not necessary that they recognize it, because it's not necessary. I don't think it's my position as an artist to tell anyone what to think or feel. I think merely all I want to do is create departure points for people to think or feel. Whatever they think or feel about is entirely up to their disposition. And that's really the part that I get very excited by. It's like, oh, someone has a reaction to the things that I do. And I think that's why I like creating works that are, you know, like effective. They affect the space around them. And that's why I titled the show Absurd Theatrics. Because it's all about this like sort of like reading into space and perception, especially like when you work with light and paint, right? Like the light in the space changes your perception of the paint. It's pretty like basic like concept, right? You know, you show a projector in a room with the light on, you can't see it so sharp. You turn it off and then suddenly the image is sharp. It's all about like relative context and how that changes what we see. And yeah, it was the same thing with me, I think. Like when looking, I mean, going back to your statement, like when looking at how things affect me, it's not something that I think of as conscious thought. It's not something that I think of as representative, especially not in my work, but rather something worth exploring. And that's it. Like that process, you know, that process is the exploration of it, and that's it. Like everything that we take away from that is, you know, like, sure, I'm not looking for answers in life.
Yeah,
I'm looking.
You're not looking for answers in life.
I'm not looking for answers in life. I'm looking for a journey. You know, like the process. I think. Fun fact, boys and girls.
What is it?
Do you remember when we had our first conversation with for Cosmic Children, and we did that trial recording session that like never saw the light of day?
I do remember. Okay,
you asked all of us in the room, what is our concept of happiness? What does happiness look like in 2019? We're now in 2021.
Yeah, what about it?
and I still stick to that answer that I made up on the spot to respond to you. Do you remember what answer I gave?
I don't remember.
I said happiness is to try.
It's a pretty solid answer.
Yeah, I really made it up on the spot. I was like, oh, not bad, dude. Oh, yeah. Like, give me a pat on the back. Hell yeah. You know? Like, no, but really, it's like, yeah, like the more I think about it, and, you know, the more like my career grows and I grow as a person into adulthood and stuff, like, yeah, I think about like, yeah. It's not about happiness as a goal or happiness as an end state, but like, just happiness is a journey, you know? Like, you just try shit out, and I think as long as I'm able to try, like, that's great, you know? Like, yeah.
So, I'm just curious to know, do you believe that, let's say, in shows, art shows or anything, is there a need to have a rationale next to the words, next to the works, to showcase like what is this piece of art, to actually dictate what is this artwork about? Do you believe in that particular idea? Because it seems as though, at least from your point of view, it is for the patrons and for the people going into the art show, for them to have an interpretation of what the piece is itself, instead of having the artist's interpretation being the framework to look at the artwork.
I think it really depends. It really depends on what the artist wants. Yeah. What carries the work the best. I think like there are a lot of things that play into like how an experience, like a exhibition experience, is put together. And yeah, like text is a huge part of it, right? If you read the text first before you look at a show, you essentially set yourself up with a premise that creates a framework for how you look at the work. Some works need that, you know? And yeah, and that's good. You're like, oh damn, like yeah, I wouldn't have gotten this if I didn't read the text before. And then the works become more powerful. Sometimes when you read it and then it takes the mystery out of the experience, then you're like, oh man, I wish I didn't read that before. And sometimes like you read it afterwards, you're like, whoa, like I'm so bamboozled by this by this exhibition. You read the text and it's like a you know, like a cum shot revelation. You're like, god damn, you know,
and that's unforgettable.
Yeah. So I think it really depends. Like for me, because I didn't see, you know, there's no end state to my work, right? I don't see any point that I'm trying to drive across with my work. It's really just about the experience, the sensorial experience of it.
Yep.
I didn't see a need for text. I wrote a very, very long text about it, but by the end of it, I was like, wait, what's the point of this again? Like, I didn't see a point. And then it was like, yeah, you know, like, I think if anything, like what I would want to see out of it as like some sort of conversational like piece is like people having conversations. That's just what I want to see. Someone saying like, oh, that abstract shape looks like a toilet.
Yeah,
you know, it looks like a
it's like a pool collector.
Yeah, someone actually said that to me. I loved it. They were like, oh, that looks like the piping of a toilet bowl or something. And I was like, oh damn,
thank you so much.
I was like, yes, oh my god.
Yeah,
but like, you know, like someone's thought process led them there. That's like, you're like, how? And you're like, oh, but it's real though, right? Someone actually thought of it.
Yeah,
that you know, like I think as long as people feel engaged with the work in one way or another, I think, like I'd be sad if a person was indifferent. I cannot deny that maybe out there someone is indifferent to my work. That's okay too, you know.
I guess it's a time and a place thing ultimately.
Yeah, for sure. Aesthetic contract. Yeah, aesthetic contract. Right time, right place, right artwork, right audience. You know, it's like a 1 in a million.
Do you think that there is a need for people to simplify, I guess, what they're looking at or what someone might be presenting? What I mean by that is, like this is, I think the new term is experiential art, or this is art on walls, or this is street art. It has to have that particular label to it, because from what you described to me, it sounds, you mentioned about having conversations with people. It's a dialogue between the individual viewing it and the art piece itself. Certain curators and certain galleries would call it experiential art, but do you vibe with that particular category? Do you think it's important?
I think it's important in retrospect.
Okay.
When you're like, oh, you look back in time, you're like, oh, damn. Impressionism. You know, like you say it somewhat seductively.
Yeah. Oh, you whisper it.
Surrealism. And you're like, oh, yeah. You know, but I think like in that moment, like when you start putting everything into boxes and put stuff into labels, that limits your you're like, because it sets another framework for things.
Does it limit you?
Does it limit me? Yeah. I mean shit, even if I tried to put a label on it, I don't know how. Like, what is it? Is it a painting? Is it an installation? You know, is it like a time-based work? You know, like I can't think of these things because it's like, I don't know, they're all of them, right? And then you're gonna create a new label.
That's
for
what
me.
And your new term,
Shit, you know, I get a whole like thing after. No, but you know, like I'm not interested in that because it's not what I'm trying to do with my work. And I think, I mean, maybe it fits with some people. It doesn't fit for me.
Okay,
you know, but it will be interesting. I think if people start like really trying to put a movement name, like a identifiable label, sure, that could be dope, you know. But I think it's not for me. At least not now. Not something that I'm looking at right now.
I think in retrospect is the right way to look at it. Perhaps consistency. If you consistently do things like that and it has a certain theme and a certain thematic to it, I think someone will probably give you that label, or someone can see the pattern across, let's say, 6 shows over 20 years. I think someone might be able to tell what you're trying to do. Yeah.
But that goes back to like what I was saying, right? It becomes retrospective. You know, you're like, oh yeah, you know, I needed that history to sort of understand the weight of the name. But if you like put it now, it's not really gonna do anything.
It's a bit premature.
Yeah. It's gonna be like, oh, it's
kinetic.
it's Nicholasism, and you'd be like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, why do I give a shit? Who's this wanker? Yeah. So I mean, I think it's important for history. When you look at art in history, you're like, okay, I mean, I believe that if you do like a surrealistic work now, it's not surrealism, it's surrealistic.
What's the difference?
Because surrealism is pretty much tied to its time period, or impressionism is tied to its time period. Right? Okay. And you're like I'm not an impressionist painter, I'm an impressionistic painter, sort of. That's what I believe anyways. I don't know, someone fight me on this, like, for real. Like, really, I mean, I appreciate these conversations a lot, like, because it's I feel like movements are always tied to its time, and then once it goes past it, it's like it just becomes you're expounding on a thought that's already been thought of. Yeah, which is not. It's not wrong. It's
because
not
it's something to work from.
Yeah. It's like evolving, but you're not from. Like it doesn't originate from like if I'm in 2021 and I'm painting like a picture in emulating the styles and thoughts of the impressionists who are looking at like color and contrast and tonal values rather than like accuracy now, and it's not gonna make me an impressionist
because the conditions are different, because
I didn't come from that era, I think that's what the name is. It's indicative of the era from which it came from. It's retrospective. You're looking at it in retrospect. You're like, oh yeah, this happened in like the Industrial Revolution when like people start looking at things like that, and like photography, right? So I think it's like the painting, like if I did that, the paintings I made were impressionistic. They're expounding on top of like ideas and theories that were created during that era, and looking at it in the way that it might be contemporary. It's still contemporary. I'm still making it now, and contemporary art will forever be whatever is now. So really, like, I think that's what it is. Labels can do a lot. They can create. I mean, I think art is. I just had this conversation last night in a skate park.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, it was shout out Daryl. He's an ethics major. Whoa. But we were talking about, I think, like how people look at art, and that was just part of education, right? It's sort of like a societal thing, Some people are privy to more education about art, about history, sociology, these sort of things, like, and like how everything kind of like creates this ecosystem of understanding.
Or bubble.
Or a bubble. Yeah, or a bubble. It limits certain people from looking at things in a particular way. Education is one of them. If I am more educated about a certain subject, I'm going to have more appreciation for it naturally, right? Because I've got more context that I can apply to a thing that I see. Say like abstract expressionism, the history of, say, like Rothko or Jackson Pollock and their narrative, the history of like the Cold War and all that shit, right? And you apply it all together. You're like, you look at that painting, you're like, you see a lot of history in it on a baseline. And then that kind of sets like a premise for how you feel about the work. Some people who know absolutely nothing about a Rothko will be like, shit, it's just like a block of color, and they'll be like, I don't get it, and and that was essentially the conversation that we had, right? And it was like, labels sometimes helps that, because you're like, oh, abstract expressionism, that sets like a sort of departure point, something that I could search up. Maybe not now. If I don't know it now, I could search it up in the future. But if you look at like a Rothko and you don't know when the hell it was made, or like why, like who the person was or whatever, and you can't research about it, then
there is a limit to what you can know.
And then you will never really fully appreciate it, or you'll never allow yourself to develop on the capacity to look at something. In
building off from that, in 2021 right now, what do you think the role of art is?
The role?
Yeah.
Like that, lor.
Like that, lah.
Yeah.
Like what?
I mean, okay, like
what role does art serve?
depends on who's asking the question, who's looking at it, right?
I'm
Like,
asking, you're looking.
Oh shit, it's Kevin. Oh man, damn.
Like I said, right now in 2021, what do you think it's the role is?
I think. I mean, honestly, I don't think its role has changed, or like the role that I aspire for it to be has changed. I really just like hope that art is something that allows people to see and feel and like think. It's just like something, an experience. Like I just, you could call it experiential art, but shit, if I stand in front of like
stop sign?
any one of those paintings in the National Gallery, right?
Okay.
Or like, a fucking stop sign.
Yeah, fucking stop sign. Yeah.
You know, I'm like, oh shit, I gotta stop. And like, damn, that's an experience, right?
That's an experience.
You're like, I want to go, but I gotta stop, right? You're like, conflict. And you're like,
conflict.
you're like, experience. Yeah, it's just like, like capacity for introspection. I think like at least for me, like artworks are very much departure points for things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for thought, for conversation, for like, you know, like I want to think about history. You know, I want to think about culture, or I just want to think about the person that's standing next to me looking at the same picture and what they're thinking of. Yeah, I think that's to me what the role of art is, and it doesn't change with what happens in life. It's always more of like an emulation of what is happening in life and how you look at it. You know, like you look at a painting of like a crowd of people from like the 1800s, and then you're like, why is no one wearing a mask? And you're like, damn, 2021, fuck this pandemic, right? And you're like, yeah. And you know, like I have found, I don't know if other people feel this, but I have found myself like sometimes watching films with like massive crowds, and I'd be like, dude, is no one scared of like, why is no one wearing a mask? You know? Do
you remember living without a mask?
Yeah, I do.
Do you have memories of that time?
Yeah, I have fond memories, you know. I didn't have something like tickling my face, you know, all the time. Yeah. I think that's, at least that's the role of art for me. Like,
but going back to that, it sounds like it allows you, or it gives you the ability to at least think of things in at least 2 levels higher than the base level. That you kind of have to be aware of these intangible thoughts and ideas and really abstraction floating about that you can conceive of. I guess like the stop sign isn't just there for anything, that there is a purpose to it. And let's say if you're talking about a painting in the museum, like someone else is viewing it and they're thinking certain thoughts. Maybe they're not thinking about the painting, they're thinking about something else as well. So it is not just about reality. It's not just about what you're seeing, but what all the different facets of all the different points of reality is telling you.
In a way, all the different facets of my reality. Yeah. I think like the artworks just present capacities for thought. I don't think reality is defined.
Mm-hmm. It's not defined.
I don't think so.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been struggling with this like
addiction?
No. Oh, you wish. Pocho. No, but more like there's this philosopher called Jean Baudrillard.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, anybody who's like a Matrix nerd, I don't know. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of
simulation and simulacra.
Yep.
Or simulacrum.
I know a little bit.
I can't remember.
But please continue.
Yeah. I probably can't even explain it to you properly. But it's I think like, okay, an inelegant way of like summarizing it would be essentially like well, perversion's a strong word, but the perversion of an original to the point where it becomes its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that thing supersedes the original concept of the original.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes an imitation with no original.
So it becomes an original that stands on its own 2 feet.
No,
from
it's an imitation. It's a perversion. Perversion being the strong word that, take it lightly.
Do you have an idea? Because when you said it, I think
okay.
The Pippi the Frog came to mind, but I don't know if that's what you have in mind.
So like right now, where I'm thinking of with regards to, especially back to like this conversation about reality, right, is that say like romance. Right, we all have an idea of romance, and more often than not, at least I think for me, idea of romance comes from movies.
It informs
love songs, right? Yep. So, yeah, it informs, but does it inform or does it set the premise?
It sets the premise first, and with repetition, perhaps it informs.
Right.
Yeah.
So, romance, at least from my experience, is very different with every partner that you have.
Yep.
But the same thought of romance always comes from like the movies that I watch. It could be like Titanic. Oh, it's like a very
grandiose.
Yeah.
Over the water.
Or
sacrificial.
Like Romeo and Juliet. 500 Days of Summer.
Yeah.
And Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist.
All like movies.
Whatever.
Right
like you're going through all this shit, right? And you're like the media is always like kind of like evolving with it, but like you're consuming all these things, and sometimes I think like, oh shit, like am I have ideas of romance kind of like consumed from media superseded what romance actually is. Do we even know what romance is? Do we know what the concept of love is? Like, can you know what the concept of love is? These are like essentially things that like Baudrillard used media. He's like sort of this like postmodern, I think so, theorist, and he, The Matrix was about that. At first, the first one was kind of wrong, right? It was like allegory of the cave.
Yep.
Like, oh shit. Major spoilers forever. But if you haven't watched Matrix, like fuck you, dude. Like it's 2021. But it's like, the first movie was like allegory of the cave. Matrix comes out. Neo comes out of the Matrix. He's like, oh shit, goddamn, I'm gonna fucking dodge bullets now. Fuck yeah, right? Matrix is a lie. I can control my reality. Yeah. Like that was really like what it was about, which wasn't right. Because and Baudrillard actually responded to it. Yeah, like it wasn't right because like a simulacrum, or like like what he was writing about was not you being able to tell that you're out of the system of control. And in the second movie, I don't know if you watched it. You better have.
I mean, it's like 20 years ago.
Okay. Yeah, so in the second movie, he meets the architect.
Yep.
And the architect is essentially this like Colonel Sanders looking guy, right?
Oh, the one in the white room, with the different
with
screens
the TVs,
and everything.
And he's like, like it's like a little bit of it. Yeah, douchey white guy, right? But it. And then he realizes, oh shit, like the world that I'm living in, Zion, and this fight against the machines is just another system of control.
Yep.
Everything is a system of control. So like the difference between Baudrillard and Plato's allegory of the cave was that once you step out of the cave, in allegory of the cave, you step out of the cave, you're like, wow, there's those splendors of God. Plato was very much about God, he was pointing towards the sky in School of Athens, I think. Baudrillard was like, you step out of the cave, you still think you're in the cave. You'll never know.
You wouldn't really know.
You wouldn't really know. And as I read these kinds of things, like, if we live in the world that we live in now with media and like how things constantly evolve and how we constantly forget things. Yeah, very much like that. Like, I mean, the word literally means literally and not literally. Like that's fucking hilarious, dude. And like, but that's where we're at. It's not right or wrong. It's just this is just where we're at.
Yeah.
And then when I think of like art and like what that can symbolize, I don't really think of it as in like, they're signifiers or they're like markers of reality, but it's just like another capacity for us to look at things. It's just a question mark. you know, and then you're like, oh, huh. Because I'm never gonna be able to know what it was like in the 1800s. I'm never gonna know what it's like in the 1900s before I was born.
Fair enough.
You know, and I can only imagine. And everything that we have are little like pieces that we piece together. Yep. But that's kind of like the best part of humanity is like that wonder, you know, like.
Or that curiosity.
Yeah. I think that's very inherently human. Being curious and always wanting to know, right? Like, is there life on Mars? Is Elon Musk an alien? Like, you know, like, you know, like, yeah, I want to know that. Conspiracy theories, right? That's why we love conspiracy theories. Yep. Yeah, it's because like it's mysteries.
Yeah. But do you think it matters if we're in a simulation or not? Ultimately,
no.
It doesn't matter.
No. It's about the journey, right? Yeah. That's the way I look at it. Like, I could be in a simulation, but if I'm gonna be in a simulation, I might as well fucking have fun with it. You know?
You get a top score.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like fucking top dog, right? No. I mean, like, yeah, just have fun with it. Just like, yeah. I mean, easier said than done. Life is not
an easy mode.
No. If anybody's played Diablo, it's like fucking the highest level of torment. You know. Fun fact: I've been playing Diablo.
Diablo 2?
Diablo 3.
Okay.
But everyone tells me to play Diablo 2. Okay,
yeah, Diablo's the best Diablo.
Yeah. So I've heard. Yeah. But it's like, yeah, life is hard. It is hard. But having fun doesn't mean easy either.
But you need to be able to see the fun in things ultimately.
Yeah. It's accepting the challenge in things. I think taking it on yourself.
Yeah.
And yeah, we all get dealt different cards, and we all deal with it differently. You know, I think, yeah, that's why I think it's very important to like at least try to make life like fun for people. Try. I mean, we're not perfect, right? A promise to do that is impossible, you know. But yeah, try. Yeah, for sure.
Was it ever a conscious choice to go down this career path? I mean, you mentioned going to art school, I guess twice, but for two different fields of study.
Yeah.
But was it ever, hey, I'm gonna try to do this art thing and see how it goes, or did it just one thing happened after another, you got engaged to do this, and it just snowballed from there? Was it ever a conscious choice?
Yeah, I mean, I studied IB.
The fuck is IB?
IB is it's an international baccalaureate. So it's the equivalent of like A levels.
Okay.
But it's an IB, like an international
It just
standard.
sounds better to you.
I mean, well, this will start a lot of wars, man. But yeah. Like, I studied IB. I actually studied in an international school for like 4.5 years.
Okay.
In Singapore, and then like essentially everything you study for is for this IB. You know, like, okay, like I'm working. So
it's a combination of all your studies.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, like you go to your your O levels, you get to your A levels, and then that's where you want to go. Okay. I want to, you know, like at least in my school, like that's where we're going. We all know that's where we're going.
So when you finish this IB, it's game over.
It's university, and then you know, like IB is like, university is like endless potential. I can go anywhere, or I could go anywhere depending on how hard I study. And I could study whatever the fuck I want to study, right? But like I was a music student up until that point, and then
fair enough.
I took IB and I was like, I want to like challenge myself. You know, I want to do visual arts, which I was actually never good at. I failed all my art classes. I almost failed all my art classes.
When you say music student, so you were practicing like a particular instrument, or?
Yeah. I loved composition.
Okay.
So I wasn't like spectacular at playing anything, but I loved feeling things. So I would write music to like try to like explore that.
Okay.
And then I realized like, oh shit, you know, but I could do that with visual arts too. I could explore feeling.
And this was what, 15, 16?
Yeah, like 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was pretty young, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I was very interested in sort of this like nuance, right? Like something material, something immaterial. Music's immaterial and art's material. Like painting's material. So I was like trying to like play around with that kind of stuff. And 6 months into IB, or like half a year into IB, and I was like painting and stuff for half a year, and I was like, God damn, man, like I want to be an artist. Like, I know this is what I want to do. Like, I've essentially spent like the last few years of my life studying music and all that stuff, working up to something that has this feeling. It's not about painting. It's not about, music specifically, but it was about exploring like a life full of this kind of wonder.
Wonder?
Yeah, like exploration, experimentation, expression. And then I met this other painter named Ruben.
Ruben Pang?
Ruben Pang, yeah.
Gotcha.
So he was in army at the time and I was in school. And like my work wasn't great. It really wasn't. It really wasn't. It was pretty much garbage. But I think I don't know, Ruben convinced me, I don't think off my work, but off our conversations, that like I should give art school a shot if I knew like this was something I wanted to do. And that's like really like internal conflict, right? Like a lot of people would kill to be in the position that I was in with the opportunities that I had. I knew like being able to do IB was something I shouldn't take for granted. And the education that I received was also not something that I would take for granted. And I think for like internal conflict wise, I felt like I might be giving up something really good here. But nevertheless, like, am I doing it for myself or am I doing it to fulfill someone else's expectation of me?
Yeah.
So yeah, I talked to like the teachers and stuff, and then I went to try out LaSalle just for fun. I was like, if I get it, I get it. If I don't get it, I don't get it. Fuck, man, I'm like fucking 16, right?
Yeah.
Or like turning 17. And then I went for the interview and I got it. And I was like with all these like older people, these like 20 plus year olds. I was like, shit, I'm a kid. And I was like, yeah. I was like, I got it. And I was like, damn, okay. I told my mom and I talked to my teachers and yeah, I was like, okay, I think I got to do this. I got to do this. I'm going to hate myself if I don't know what is at the end of this road.
So it was a leap of faith.
It was very much a leap of faith.
Okay.
It was very, very much a leap of faith. And I was very, very lucky because like when I joined LaSalle, I was with a batch that was pretty diverse and everyone's exploration with their process and their approach to art was so different. It was like very hard to be competitive in that way. Everyone was competing against each other to explore more.
Interesting.
Which I think is like the most holistic educational environment you could be in, at least for me. And like coming from like, meeting people with different walks of life, with different backgrounds, different experiences, everyone looks at different value systems. I came out of a school where everyone was working towards the same thing, and into a school where nobody knows who they are. They're all misfits, right? Everyone's like, I just want to explore shit. I just want to like try out stuff. Yeah, that was great. That was like...
So the change environment actually helped you?
Yeah, very much so. I think it was probably like, like one of the biggest things that happened to me in my life so far. Yeah, I was like, this changes a person. Yeah, and it was a great 3 years. It was a great 3 years. You graduate with hopes and dreams, and then nothing. Just fucking cricket sound. I mean, I didn't get a chance, dude. Like like right after I finished the grad show, it was like 4 days later. Like, and listen to the army. Yeah. Like, all right, man. I'm bald now. Yeah, and I mean, army has a way of like it's like you're constantly living, under regiment and all that shit. But like halfway through like army, I was like, oh god, like, I can't help it. Like I need to like bring a sketchbook. I need to like draw shit. I need to like do stuff. I need to like fucking have fun and like I need to figure out like a way to sort this out. Yeah, and yeah. And once army was done, I knew I wanted to paint.
You knew you wanted to paint.
I knew I had to paint. Fuck. It wasn't even like, I don't even know what career I'm going to do yet.
Yeah.
I know I want to be an artist, but I know that's a hard road. That's a hard road to get to. It's a hard road to walk down.
But what was your definition of artist back then?
And my idea was just like my ultimate, like, right? Like your goal, right? Your idea of happiness, to be able to try.
Okay.
You know,
fair
like
enough.
have a studio, have a practice, you know, be able to show your works, somehow make a living out of it.
Somehow.
Somehow.
Yeah.
You know, beg, borrow, and steal, whatever. Like, yeah. That was, yeah, I love that sound.
Yep.
Yeah. But anyways, like, yeah, like that. To have a career as an artist was like the goal, right? That's like, yeah, if I have a career as an artist, I can try. But I knew that for my degree, I didn't want to replicate what experience I already had.
Okay.
Because I felt like most of my education came from the experiences I shared with my classmates. Not necessarily just from the teachers. The teachers were helpful. They give you questions to which you explore yourself.
Yeah.
Right? But in the degree program, I wasn't sure if it was something that I felt would contribute to my practice anymore, because I was no longer interested in rubrics. I was no longer interested in systems. For some students, they need that. They need that rubrics and that like systems in place so that they can create a practice for themselves. That's totally okay. But I knew I didn't need that. I knew I didn't want that even.
What informed this decision of yours?
I mean, I knew people from the BA program. I knew like some of the teachers.
Yeah.
Like I've seen how it goes.
Okay.
Right. And I sat there wondering, like, what do I want for myself? Do I want to focus on this, or what else could I do that could contribute to my pursuit as an artist? That's why I took arts management. Because it wasn't like, oh, like I need to learn from a school how to be an artist. I already knew like what I wanted to explore in my works, or like what I wanted to try to explore in my works. So, but do I know how to do marketing?
Yeah.
You know, do I know how to like talk to people and put things together and try to organize logistics? How to conceptualize stuff that supports artists? I don't know how to do that.
Hence arts management.
Which is why I wanted to study arts management, because it was like, yeah, you know, I have all these things that contributes to this perspective, not something that I already know. It's something that I don't know. And that's why it was like a fun thing to study, I think, because it was like, oh yeah, you know, like I meet all these other people who may or may not have an arts background.
Yep.
That just want to try these things out too. I was like, yeah, shit, okay, I'll try it out. Yeah. And it was interesting.
I think it's a very interesting way of looking at the idea or the practice of being an artist, because I think especially growing up in Singapore with the education system, we have this notion that it's a one-size-fits-all, meaning, let's say, if you want to be an engineer, there is a very specific engineering course that you should go for. Or there is, let's say, if you want to be a designer or you'll be an illustrator, there is this very specific course with a major in illustration that is very, very specific, that will kind of, quote-unquote, teach you how to do things. But from what you just said, it's that you had the awareness and... No, you really had the awareness to just ask around and to see what you were lacking, actually, because you didn't need anybody, or you didn't need to learn how to be an artist, how to paint and everything, but you learned the peripheral skills to aid in your particular practice.
Yeah, I think I knew once I graduated the first time that if I wanted to do this, I can't follow anybody. It's one of those careers where you're like, I can't replicate the steps of another person. Like, I really need to do this myself. I need to figure this shit out myself. I need to like figure out what I want to do, how I want to do it myself. Because like if I try to replicate someone else's career, I'm not them. I'm not going to be able to do it.
Yep.
And I don't want to live in the shadow of somebody else. You know? I don't want my voice to be an echo. So it's quite unlike, like some of those other careers you talked about, right? Like engineers or lawyers. Yeah, you study those things and, you know, you go to a good school, you get your good grades, you pass your bar exam, and then you specialize in whatever you want to specialize in. But it really wasn't like that. You know, I can't, you know, sign to this gallery and be like, okay, I want these collectors, and okay, I want these types of exhibitions, and I want this kind of publicity. It really doesn't work that way. Because like, I think the way I looked at it was like, artworks tend to be extensions and emulations of the artists that they come from. They're not isolated from them, right?
Fair
because
enough.
like personal sensibility goes into everything that we do, the way we look at things and how we do it. So when I was looking at myself as an artist, I was like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna like try to follow anybody. I'm gonna try to make this my own. I'm gonna do what I want to do. And I knew with that said, there were certain prejudices that I think people might have. I don't know if they do, but I think they might have it, and completely disregard that.
Yeah.
And just like try to make a name for myself in the way that I want to, and have fun with it, right? Because at the end of the day, if it supports my capacity to make artworks, and it supports my capacity to make a living, and it supports my capacity to make friends and have new experiences, then why do I need to let like a prejudice get in the way of that? For what? What's that going to do for me?
Yeah.
So that was very important to me. Yeah, it was. I don't know if it, I mean, I'm very lucky to have, I think, met a lot of people that I had a lot of great conversations with that kind of like contributed to this sort of perspective. And it was very helpful. And I think that allowed me to take steps in the way that has led me to where I am right now. Yeah.
Was there a particular piece of media that you read that informed your attitude on this? Or to broaden that question out a little bit, who or what came into your life that informed this particular attitude of yours?
Actually, I think there was no media. It was like media has different perspectives.
Yep.
So definitely important, right? You don't read media to consume it and like, yeah, it's media, therefore it's right. But it's like, it's media, so I should question it. Yep. In the same way you question everything around you.
Hopefully.
Ideally. Yeah. You know, sometimes you want to believe what you want to believe. And you're like, fuck off, I want to believe this. You know, I don't care. But like I wanted to look at, like, be skeptical about everything and just like, yeah, you know, like read different things, meet different people, hear different opinions, you know, warnings or like blessings, you know, and like whatever, and take everything with a pinch of salt and observe. I think like when I was younger, like, I mean, even now, I'm still constantly learning, but observing is very, very important, and observing without jumping to a conclusion. Just observing first.
But when you say observing, what do you mean by that?
Just looking at things, looking at how people interact with each other, looking at how things are done, or trying to figure out how things are done. Or sometimes you don't even need to observe. Sometimes you just go straight up and ask them like, how do you run a gallery? You know, like I don't know. Like it could be any type of conversation, right? Like it doesn't need to even be a gallery. It doesn't need to directly correlate to how do you run a business. How do you cook food? You know, like the way people approach things is very important. And I think that's the crux of like everything we're doing right now. Like everybody is just like, we're trying. Everyone's just trying. It's like understanding how people try. And like when I was making a career for myself, it was like, how am I going to try? You know, like I know I wanted to work with commercial organizations because they've built brands and identities for themselves. That's cool. That's so exciting. You know, like we have brands and identities for ourselves. We wear the clothes we want to wear. We wear the perfumes we want to wear, right? They're not always so tangible, physical, right? And brands do that too, you know? And I thought that was dope. Like you created an identity not attached to a person, but to an idea. That's great, you know? And yeah, I guess like the money helps. The money always helps. You know, it's a great motivator because it allows you to live your life. Yep. You know, and allows you to live your life in the capacity that you want to. It gives you autonomy. I think that's important as an artist. Autonomy. For sure.
How do you have autonomy in this day and age?
You try. You try. That's it, right?
It's a fucking cop-out answer.
But it's true.
What helps you?
What helps me?
Yeah.
Find autonomy.
Yeah.
Just trying. No, I'm serious though. Like I think that we are never really in full control of the world or our reality because we live in a community. We have other people that affect our lives. You know? And if you want to think about it that way, then shit, yeah, we'll never have autonomy as long as there's the rules of nature.
Society.
Not even society. I think society is a byproduct of nature.
Society is byproduct of nature. Which documentary did you get that from?
Welcome to my podcast. No, yeah. I really think like cause and effect. Like I don't think of some people I don't know if they're gonna be happy to hear this, but I don't think of humanity as inherently special.
Fair enough.
You know, I think like everything is just cause and effect, right? The wonders of the technological era that we have today is just a natural process.
So, by that statement, do you mean that due to the curiosity of human nature, we are always bound to get to this particular point?
Not to this particular point, but by the curiosity of nature, we are bound to get to multiple points. It's just that I feel very much that while we have put conscious effort to be where we are at now, we have also stumbled to where we are.
Fair enough. Yeah.
It's kind of like you're very intentionally walking forward or like putting your legs left and right to carry you forward while blindfolded.
On a tightrope.
No tightrope.
No tightrope.
No tightrope because tightrope means there's a direction.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Right?
Fair enough.
You're like fucking...
In the desert.
You're like swimming, maybe. You're like swimming in an open ocean, right? And like you're putting your arms out, you're kicking your legs.
Yeah.
You're very intentionally doing that. You're blindfolded.
Oh, it sounds terrible.
But that's humanity. At least that's the way I look at humanity, which sounds like immense suffering, but also immense adventure. You know? It's like...
But both sides of the same coin, really.
Yeah. I think like it's a double-edged sword, right? You could either, cut yourself or cut through reality. I don't know. I totally made that up. But yeah, something like that, like, yeah. Like, I think that's fun. I think, and that's something that I like to embrace, at least.
Is this something that, because you okay, would you describe yourself as an artist?
Big gulp from the beer can here.
Yeah. No, I'm just curious to know that, do you see yourself as an artist, or what do you see yourself as?
I see myself as a person. But
First and foremost, okay.
First and foremost.
Yeah.
I think an artist is, another area of contention. Well, I see like the label as an artist or the title as an artist as something that you do not bestow upon yourself. It's just what other people say or think of you. But I think that goes without saying to everything else. It's just like in the same way, like with to the previous conversations that we had about labels and understanding. I would tell someone that I'm an artist, but it's because it sets a premise that makes it easier for them to understand me. And I appreciate that sometimes people need that, and that's okay.
That simplifies things for other
you don't
people to understand.
You don't want to be like this wanker that's like, oh, I'm so dark and mysterious.
I want to cut through reality.
You're like, oh, what do you do? You're like, I explore perceptual precepts, right? That's like, oh, come on, dude. Like, for real. Like, yeah.
Okay.
I would say that I'm an artist, but that's why. Because it allows someone to have an understanding of what I do.
Yep.
Do I think of myself as an artist? I just think of myself as a person that's like trying to explore things and experiment with things that, isn't a particular language. I feel like at least my approach to things, like if I were to do anything else, would somewhat be about the same. If I were to be like a banker or a lawyer, not saying that I can. Those are incredibly hard jobs.
One can hope.
but like the approach should be the same. Like if I were to be a chef, I mean, a chef is a pretty creative job too.
It is.
And if I would be a chef, like the approaches that I would take would still be the same, you know, like it would still be about experimenting and playing and flavors and tastes and the experience. That's how I look at it. But you don't call a chef an artist necessarily. In the same way, like a chef, I think it's also like, I'm a painter. Right? It's like pastry chef, sous chef. I mean, yeah, you know,
it's
like
just for the sake of simplification. There's actually a lot more depth.
There's so much more depth to it. You know, like people are highly nuanced individuals.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody has a narrative. Everybody has a story. There's always some depth to a person, whether we want to see otherwise or not. And like, yeah, it's the same thing with me, I think. Yeah.
You mentioned language just now. So in contextualizing that particular statement or categorization, what would be your verb and your nouns and your sentence structure right now?
With regards to?
Your practice?
My practice?
Yeah.
Like?
Because you have a wide array of stuff. Like just going through your socials and your websites. What are the tools that you employ to tell your concepts and your ideas?
What are my tools? Well, I'm a visual artist, so therefore visuals. I think at least like, I mean, I'm not big on social media or anything. In fact, like, I don't know, like, I don't really know how to do it, social media, but what I do like to do is I just like to put the picture there, and then I like people to think whatever they want to think of it.
Okay.
So without setting too much premise. Yeah, in the same way, like, I mean, when I make my works, I know there's going to be pictures taken of them, right? In the same way, like, I think, like, no matter what we do to some certain degree, you know, like, there's going to be a picture taken of it. Because that's the world we live in now, right? We love taking pictures of things. We love documenting and consolidating memories.
But would that thought inform the way you create?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I think like even before I started working with lights, even before I started working with lights, I already used the camera to look at my painting sometimes.
What do you mean by that?
So as I paint, I'll look at it with my eyes, and then I'll whip out a camera and look at it on a camera.
It's different, right?
It's different. It's totally different.
Yeah.
It's completely different. And I love that personally. It's like, oh shit, yeah, like pictures look different on cameras, even different types of cameras. Like pictures between film cameras and digital cameras, like mirrorless cameras or whatever, like they look different. I thought that was really like quite fantastic, really. Like, that like perception of the same thing captured differently creates a different experience. And that's what I like to do. It's not saying that like, oh, I'll create another artwork from the same artwork, but is that like the inherent part of how we consume information through, you know, screens is just a way of life. And that's something that like I fully appreciate. And I also know that my work is very difficult to consume via a picture.
Your work is very difficult to consume via a picture.
Yeah,
would a video help, or does it have to be experienced in person?
Because it's about what it does to the space that you're in. Okay. My work is essentially exploring how the correlative relationship between a two-dimensional surface and a three-dimensional space creates like an experience bubble or an experience environment. And can change with it, right? So like a very simplistic way of putting it, it's like I have this energy that I apply onto a painting, a canvas. It could be like, you could look at it literally like chemical potential energy. I put like strength and energy into a brushstroke. Or you can look at it as a type of like spiritual energy, if you want to say that.
Yep.
Or like personal energy, personal affectations of like an individual that goes into an abstraction. And then you can look at like the 3-dimensional space as the lights that I use. Lights are waveforms and they fill the space, and energy disrupts like perceptions of things. You know, you have like a heat wave, and the heat wave literally starts to create a mirage.
Yep.
And in the same way, the light and the different waveforms, so the different colored lights, affects the different colors you see on the painting.
So everything is intentional to is the word disrupt?
Yeah, it's almost like saying like you will never be able to fully experience my work if you're looking at it through a camera. Yeah, which is like, dude, I love that, man. It's like people are like, oh, your work's so hard to photograph. It'll be like, yeah, it is, you know. And maybe some people will be like, oh, that's a terrible sales point because you're like,
but that's authentic to you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very much what I'm trying to explore.
Yeah,
at least like as a concept, right, with my work. So yeah, like that's super fun. Like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like, haha, you'll never really be able to like, you know, haha, joke's on you, better come from my shows.
So what, in as of right now, what conceptual tools might you be looking to explore to add to this toolkit you have right now?
Well, I mean, like, oh dude, so much. I like the idea of like, not illusion, but perception that creates that sensation of an illusion.
The fuck?
Right? The fuck, right? Because like when you, let's say like, let's take a concept of like movement.
Mm-hmm.
We have receptors that give us that impression of movement. It could be sound.
Yep.
It could be visual.
Yep.
It could be kinetic.
Mm-hmm.
Now imagine if you could simulate that.
Wouldn't it be like wind?
Maybe it could be wind. Maybe it could be even without any movement other than the perception of energy that creates that sensation of movement.
So due to X, you're just imagining things changing or moving?
Not necessarily even imagining. It's your brain that is telling you you're moving.
Okay.
But you could be stationary.
See,
that's illusory, right? That's like illusions, essentially. You're like playing with like, you know, whatever.
So how much drugs do the people who go to your next show need to take before they can go in?
See, if you need to take drugs to go to my show, pocho. But if you are like, actually so many people ask me like, oh yeah, dude, you must like totally be tripping out when you make a pay. It's like, no, that's not true. Like I'm never.
You're listening to the news.
Yeah, like, oh god, actually during lockdown, yeah, Channel News Asia live from YouTube, like on the background.
Today
and then,
we have 300 reported cases.
Yeah. And then like music blasting, and then like a movie playing. Like that's the way I work, you know. Like, oh, so much fucking stimulus, right? Yeah. But really, like for sure, like that's it. Like, I mean, there are a lot of reasons why I chose this career, and a lot of it is because of who I am, you know, like ADHD, dyslexia. I mean ADD, not ADHD, but I don't know what the term is now. They like kind of melded together. But yeah, like all these things. Like I need a lot of stimulus when I work, you know, and I love it that way. There's like so many things. I'm like,
you've learned how to work with it.
Yeah, I've learned how to like embrace those different aspects of me.
Yep.
And like build a life around that where it doesn't have to feel like I'm dejected because of it, because the way I think is different, or because I read fucking slow because of my dyslexia, or like the fact that it's so hard for me to like pay attention, or like sometimes even look a person in the eye as I'm talking to them because I need to like dart my eyes around to look at different things when I think. Like, yeah. Like, I kind of like just embrace it, right? Like, yeah, that's me. It's my, you know, yeah. But yes, yeah, like with all my work, same.
So I've seen the scale of work that you have done. Some of it is huge projections on, I guess, the facades of buildings, and down to the fact that in the show, it's a very closed off area.
Yep.
So in conceptualizing the pieces for these types of works, is it any different? Because scale is something that not many artists might have the privilege of doing. Yeah, especially if you're blowing up to like a facade, you're projecting it down to having like A2, A3 piece. I think it's how does scale inform your work?
Oh yeah, that's an intense question, man. See, like, okay, with those two examples, right? Like the projections that were on the National Gallery and the solo show that was in a room, both of which I cannot visualize.
What do you mean you cannot visualize?
I can imagine, but I'll never be able to see it. I'm never going to be able to work on something that's as big. I can't like work on my fucking iPad and then like look at the side of a building and draw. At least when I did that.
Okay.
So when I like, you know, made that piece on my iPad and my computer, it was essentially like my experiences. Like, you know, I've seen works of scale. I've done works like similar to that ish. And then you think about that and they become, you know, it's not conscious thought again. It's like, oh yeah, I know this part needs to be big. The contrast needs to feel like this. Because it's not going to be consumed like that. But you don't think about it like that. At least I didn't think of it like that. I was like, oh, yeah. It's just like, oh, yeah, it has to be big. Oh, yeah. You know, I need to detail here. Like, oh, yeah, this color. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You know, it's like, yeah, it kind of feels like that. And when I was doing like my solo show, which is in like the gallery space, it's like, as I was making these works, I'm never really going to be able to look at them in full scale together, especially with light. You know, I can't do a 1-for-1 mock-up of the exhibition anywhere. I can't even do a scale mock-up. I couldn't even do a miniature because of the lights. Yeah. You know, and the intent. So there's a certain amount of like, you don't know what the fuck is gonna happen.
So you were surprised when you saw everything come together as well.
Yeah, but I think that's the nature of my work, right? Like the context changes how you see the work, and that's something that like I fully appreciate. You know, I guess maybe you could critique that by saying like, oh, but then as an artist, you're never in full control of the experience. True. But as a person, are you ever in full control of your life? Oh, yeah. Like, you know, we make the decisions that we can, but, you know, and I think it's the same thing that, yeah, it's this, like, it's, I pretty much look at everything in the same way, you know.
So you're rolling the dice. You set up the conditions.
That's a particular way to say it.
You set up the conditions so that you might roll a 6. There's a high probability you'll roll a 6, but there's always a chance you'll roll.
Like, I know my light is gonna fill the space.
Yeah.
How is it gonna fill the space? I don't fucking know. Is that cool? Yeah, that's cool. You know, like that. Oh, like that's wonder. Yeah. You know, that's like the whole process is an experimentation. The whole process from putting the paint on the palette, turning the light on, going to the light shop and like contacting your suppliers and like, yo, what stock you got, right? And like installing the work, showing the work, opening day, people coming in, people looking at the works. The whole thing is an experimental process. That's so exciting, you know? And I really don't like, I don't know. I don't think anyone can take that away from me because it's like, that is something that I love. You know, it's like that idea of like, you're so uncertain until it's there and you're like, damn. So this is what it looks like.
It's interesting you mentioned it because I can imagine for some people, being an artist ends when you submit the work and not anything that comes after. Yeah.
I mean, I shit. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I mean, even after the show is done. Yeah. You know, conversations like this, talking about the show is like, yeah. Does it really ever end? Does it have to end? You know, like it's a very pragmatic way of looking at the world. Once the work's off the walls, the show ends. But you know, it's like that like saying like you die twice. When your body dies, and then when someone says your name for the last time, it's kind of like the same thing. Right, like memories or like conversations, ideas about something intangible like an artwork or like something physical and not with not like a person, but like something like an experience can like live on and like
That
different
lasts a lot
iterations.
longer,
Yeah. Like that's cool. That's so exciting, right? And I like talking to people about not just my shows, but like other people's shows before they happen, after they happen, while they happen. That's cool. That's cool. Like experiences don't necessarily end when the show ends, in the same way that like the experience of a person doesn't necessarily end when their body dies.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Fully.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious to know, how do you marry the idea of commerce with regards to art together? Meaning, let's say a client engages you.
Yeah.
What comes first, and how do you tailor your practice according to what the client is engaging you for? Because the client might not understand all these things that you're trying to portray, because those are for like your solo work.
Yeah, for sure. No, for sure. I think it depends on the nature of how they approach me or what they approach me for.
Like through email or WhatsApp.
No. As in like if they're like, oh, we want to commission a piece from you. We like this style of work. That's pretty straightforward, right? Like, oh, okay, like it's already a part of me. It's something that I can explore because it's something I've explored before.
Yep.
That's pretty straightforward. It gets complicated when you're like, oh, okay, we want to collaborate on something, right? And collaboration means and like in some people's minds, compromise.
The C word.
the nasty C. No, but it's not. I don't see it as a bad thing. Collaboration is about putting two minds together. Why would I see collaboration with another artist, or another person, doesn't even need to be an artist, as any different from a brand? First and foremost, if I'm not thinking of money.
If you're not thinking of money.
If I am thinking of money, then that's just being, that's reparations for the effort and the work that I put in for the returns that you get through our collaboration. It's the same. Like if I were to collaborate with another artist and we're going to sell the works, then it's like, I got to think of the reparations that I'm going to get. It's fair. So I don't see it as like a dirty thing, or I don't see it as a different thing. I see it as opportunity to collaborate with another identity, except this time, this identity has tons of people behind it. That's so much more. That's so wild. Yeah. Right? Like you've got all these brands, all these people, they're like, like there has to be a collective interest in me or my work or any artist and their work to even like start that conversation. That's great. And when you're working through all these things, you're doing these meetings, you're having these back and forths, that's the collaborative process. Like it's no different from how I would do it with another person. The emulation of it, like the types of conversations, the way you have these conversations, sure, they're different. In the same way we have different conversations with everybody we meet. So like I've never seen it as an active effort that I had to put on top of anything else in my work. It's just like something that I love. I love collaborating with people because they expand my perspectives. And when I work with brands or I work with commercial clientele, it's the same thing. It's like, it's just another collaboration. It's a back and forth. They have their identity attached to it. I have my identity attached to it. The point of collaboration is merging these identities together to create something new and exciting. And that's what I love. I don't think of myself as inherently superior or, as my vision as uncompromising in that sense because it is better or different or I need to stick to my branding. Like, sure, yeah, I have to consider like whether I'm going to bend over backwards for someone and I'm going to like, do like a weird thing that is not something I'm trying to do with my work. Yeah, sure. They're bottom lines, right? You can't cross those bottom lines. Yep. But yeah, and I think for the most part, no one's like, if someone's gonna contact me and they'll be like, "Hey, can you paint a family portrait for me?" Like, I would love to, but I don't do portraits.
Yep.
And if I did, you're probably not gonna like it. So like, like let me recommend you to someone else.
Yeah.
Who can give you what you want.
So it's about knowing your strengths and your weaknesses as well, or your limits, really.
Yeah. It's it's about understanding your relationship with the other person.
Yep.
Right? Like if they are looking for something particular that they want that you aren't, then there's no point then there's no point for me to take on that job. Yeah, because it's not just about the money.
What is it about then?
It's about that relationship. I'm not gonna make false promises to a person that is like has told me what they want that I know I cannot do, or I know that I don't want to do. So that's it, and somebody else out there, some other artists with what they want, they're gonna be a much better fit. I'll totally push them that way. It's not about like, I'm not trying to like, yeah,
hustle.
I mean, hustle is important, but yeah, like I'm not gonna like. I think it's about what you put out into the world, and if this person that can collaborate better with this other artist is gonna put something way better out into the world than me, because their relationship, at least in my impression, fits better. Yeah, for sure, I'll let that happen.
Did this come over time?
Sorry?
Or did this mentality develop over time? Because I would imagine with your practice, your visual practice of it being a little bit more abstract and intangible, clients might not understand that.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It definitely came with time. I mean, not just my experiences, but observing other people's experiences. When you're young and you need money.
Yes.
Money is very important growing up, especially. You learn autonomy and all these things. I've seen people take on jobs that they really shouldn't have. Because it wasn't a good fit. It was like people were already demarcating lines that, were beyond people's bottom line, and then that leads to a very unhappy relationship. You get a unhappy artwork with an unhappy artist with an unhappy client.
It's all
or
lose.
Collaborator.
Yeah.
And then everybody loses. Then for what? And yeah, I'm not like throwing shade on anybody that tries. Definitely try. We all need to make these experiences. We all need to make these mistakes. But I think it's like you have to take away from those mistakes, and you have to walk away allowing it to make you a better artist, a better professional, a better person. Yeah.
Has there been instances where you didn't want to do it anymore because it was getting a little bit tough, a little bit tight?
Like an artist?
Yeah.
Not do it anymore, but I was like, I want to put more things on my plate.
What do you mean?
So it's like I want to try this. I want to try that. I want to maybe if I do this, I can earn more money for sure. Okay, maybe this is more pragmatic. I could earn some extra cash here, extra cash there. But it's never been like, oh, I'm going to start being an artist.
Okay.
Yeah, never. Not since I was 17, I guess.
Why the tenacity?
Oh, no, man. It's not a tenacity, dude. It's like, it's just straight up like a itch.
So it's not even a career then?
Well, what is a career, right? This is just a word that we use to define.
Says that it's a profession. You take up, you choose the character, you get a certain number of stats.
Sure, yeah, but are we born with a certain number of stats, Kevin? You're gonna be like, I want 10,000 creativity.
Didn't your parents
and like 22 strength? like
one dex.
Well, yeah,
22 strength.
You're like, you don't get to choose that, dude. You know what I mean? Yeah. So sure, career, right? You want to I'm gonna define career, but I think with what I was saying earlier, it's career was for me to define.
Okay.
And that's awesome. Maybe someone's, maybe a job would be like, okay, you can't moonlight, right?
You what?
You can't moonlight.
What the fuck's cut moonlight?
You can't moonlight.
Oh, you can't moonlight. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So, you can't. Yeah, sure, that limits your career.
But you're kind of, I would imagine, are you open to such a possibility? Let's say, for example, there comes a time in the near future or in the future that there's a realistic possibility of you getting a 9 to 5 or a 9 to 6, like a proper full-time job.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're open to as well?
You know, it's like Batman. It's Bruce Wayne in the
Are you trying to make the
Batman
comparison that
night.
you are Bruce Wayne? Because I didn't catch that.
Yeah, no. If I did a 9 to 5, then guess what? I would probably just be like thinking of making work from like 6 to 12. Right? Like, that's the truth. That's the truth.
Okay.
So like, it's like, oh, what's your career? Be like, yeah, I'm like, you know, I'm doing this and an artist. And it'll just be like, yeah, it's like, I'll make it up for myself, you know, because I don't believe like a career defines a person. I believe that a person can let their career define them should they want to. You know? Yeah, but I think it's really like there is more to life than career. I just chose like being an artist because the artworks I make is defined by me, and I'm not defined by the works I make. And I think that's why art is special, right? Because like the works are very much like this like correlative relationship, this back and forth, like, yeah. So for sure, I mean, like, no, I don't think I could stop making works. Even if I wanted to. You know?
Even if you wanted
like,
to.
no, my hands, stop it.
You just wake up in the middle and then you start painting a canvas.
Yeah, I'd be like, okay, wait, that actually happens. That actually happens though. It's like, you know, you're like,
what was the story with regard to that?
I'm so like comfy, I'm cozy. Yeah. And then you're like lying there and then you're like, oh, and then your brain starts like doing that thing where it won't shut up.
Okay.
You know, and then like, fuck it. And you get out of bed and you like start like doodling shit or like, you know, drawing on an iPad, drawing on a sketchbook, drawing on like whatever the fuck you can get your hands on. And yeah, you know, it's just one of those things, I think, for me. Yeah, like I can't really help it. My process is slow. It's not saying like I'm like I have a problem. You know, I have like some sort of addiction. But yeah, like I'm always thinking about it. You know, I'm thinking about thought, I'm thinking about ideas, thinking about the way we look at the world, thinking about like blah 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 blah. I think that's just who I am. Like,
so there is a constant chatter or there's a constant dialogue between yourselves inside with regards to these different topics.
Yeah, it's less a voice in my head. It's more like a puzzle.
Loudspeaker? Oh, a what?
A puzzle.
Puddle.
Oh, puddle. It's more like a little puddle.
It's a puzzle. Okay.
It's a puzzle. Yeah, it's a puzzle. It's a puzzle that is like a web.
Fair enough.
And you know, like it's kind of like.
Are we talking about the 500 piece or the 1,000 piece?
Dude, it's more like. It's more like a puddle. It's kind of like the you know, the butterfly effect, right? Like a butterfly flaps its wings and then like a tornado happens somewhere else. So it's like when you drop a rock into a puddle, it creates ripples. And then now imagine like there are all these like rocks falling into this like puddle, right? And all these ripples meet and they create more ripples. That's how I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like everything becomes like a cause and effect chain, but it's not a chain because a chain implies a line. It's more like a web.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that mean that you're the spider?
It means that maybe. Maybe.
So there is a common thread, or at least for what I noticed with regards to your work, that there is always a spectrum of colors that you use. So, in going on from that thought, are there colors that you actively don't use? And why the colors that you use?
So, yeah, somebody actually asked me once, "What's your favorite color?" And I was like,
chili.
Oh, spicy. No, but it was like, yeah, what is my favorite color? And I was like, no, I'm not interested in a color because I don't identify with a color. But I am interested in the in-betweens of color. This sounds like so pretentious, but it's like...
It is pretty pretentious.
Hey, thanks, man. This is sweet of you to say. Yeah, no. It's like if I were to put like red and blue together,
Yeah.
It's like, what does that feel like?
What does that feel like and not look like?
And then suddenly you put it next to yellow and it feels different, right?
Okay.
Or you put it next to like green.
Fair enough.
And then they all kind of like have a different relationship. That is exciting.
So you think colors is alive?
I think our perception of colors is alive, but I also think very interestingly is because possibly our experience of colors are all different.
I agree.
Right?
Yep.
Like some people have color deficiency, right? And you're like, oh, what? How do you?
Or color blindness.
Or color blindness, yeah. And you're like, whoa, your reality is different from mine. Like, oh shit. You're like, what does that look like? I'm never gonna fucking know what that looks like. Or at least I might know what that looks like. I'm never gonna know what living that kind of life is like.
Exactly. So it's the experience.
Yeah. So it's the experience of this like relationship between colors. And that's why I love using so much colors. And that's like when I use colors, I like to like saturate the colors. I like to like really like explore that kind of like depth. And then like you can do that with paint, but then like shit, let's throw in a whole other color spectrum in there. Let's use light, and like the light color spectrum is different from the paint color spectrum. And you're like, bam. And it's this like incredulous experience of like explosion of colors.
So do you take color theory and you poo-poo over it?
Yeah, well, I don't poo-poo all over it, but I might pee-pee on it.
Okay, just a little bit of disrespect.
Just a little. Well, I mean, it's like you can't really defile the color theory because it's kind of like it's there for you to play with.
Okay.
Right.
It is what works.
Yeah, you can't say like you put two Lego pieces together wrong.
You can put two Lego pieces together wrong.
But like shit, isn't that the whole point of Lego? Is like to like play and like like let your imagination go wild.
Not if you're trying to make the fucking van.
Yeah, but like vans are boring. No, I love vans. Actually, I do. Yeah, no. Yeah. But it's true. Like, yeah, we could do things to like achieve outcomes we want. I could put a painting together to look like something, sure. But like, what am I really trying to do with paint? What am I really trying to do with the idea of painting? What am I really trying to do with the idea of colors? Like I don't see light as light. I see light as painting. Because how we look at paint, like one of the first things you learn when you're painting, you're learning how to paint is how you look at light. How light affects that, right?
Yep.
The Impressionists were renowned for that kind of stuff. Just like take that idea that like maybe light could be used as a type of painting. Maybe it could, it like in the case of my works, like the lights change how you see the colors on the canvas. Is that not painting?
So it's just not being too hung up on what paint actually is and just having like an open mind with regards to how you want to approach it.
Yeah. Or like trying to like redefine stuff, re-explore and experiment with the idea of something. Yeah.
Does skirting the boundaries and I guess exploring to what extent these types of definitions and categories, does it excite you as a creator and as an artist?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think that's the entire point of the career for me. Yeah. Because like, I never want to be in a position where I just start regurgitating stuff.
Even your old stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I don't want to regurgitate stuff. Well, I can't. I think even if you ask me to like do another like replicate my painting, I'll be like, I wish I knew how to. I can't.
But you said you mentioned that your practice is more intuitive. I want you to explain a little bit on that, because there is always the idea of you paint with feelings and everything. But what does that mean to you? Yeah.
Aha. Counterpoint. So I don't paint with feelings.
Yeah. Okay. You paint with what?
Yeah. Good question. What? Yeah. Okay. I don't apply feelings into my paintings. Usually like, like the idea is that like you pour all these things onto the canvas and then ta-da, artwork, right? It's very, very much the reverse for me, actually. Like usually when I approach a painting, it's very blank. It's as blank as the canvas itself. So It starts with like, oh, color. Maybe it's like yellow. It could be as boring as yellow. Yellow's not a boring color, but there's so many colors of yellow, and I'll just take something and then I'll apply it.
Okay.
Right. It could be a mark. It could be a shape. Whatever. Right. Starting point, departure point. And then it's counterpoint. It's like, oh, what about this? Let's put orange here. Like, oh, what if it did this? It's like a little bit of pink, and like, oh yeah, I love this relationship. I just wipe it away. You're like, oh man, that feels horrible, right? And then you expand, right? It's like all this like reaction and counterpoint and like just like articulating on an idea or the inverse of an idea, and then just letting it go where it needs to go. And then at the end of it, like maybe like when I'm done, which could be like 2 days or like 2 months or 2 years, sit at it and look at it and be like, huh, why did I do this? Why does it make me feel like this? And then in that sense, it's like I never consciously put the feelings into it, but it tends to show me a lot of things. Like I realized, like I was going through a very turbulent time. I made this picture with all these lights. I realized that when I feel very disturbed, when I feel very uncomfortable and unhappy and sad, or these like negative kind of sort of emotions, the work comes out very clean, which is quite the opposite.
It is quite the opposite. Yeah,
it comes out clean. It comes out defined.
So it's like very sharp, very angular. Are we talking about that?
You get like neat lines.
Okay.
Which is like weird, right?
You're trying to find order.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So see, that's the cool part, right? You're like, oh, why? And then I feel as much an audience as any audience would feel an audience, And I like that my work is like that. I like that my work is somewhat like not so much introspective, but like retrospective.
Do you record yourself while you're monologuing, or is it all in your head?
Yeah, it's all in my head.
I think for maybe your 5th solo show, you should all have blank canvases, but it's all audio recordings of you monologuing this stroke, that stroke.
Wow.
So the people viewing can imagine it, but it's a blank canvas.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Kevin, you should be an artist.
Well, I can be your manager.
You can be my manager. You're gonna start telling me what to do. Hi, I'm Kevin. I'm your host. We have a very special guest with us today.
Very, very special guest. So I'm curious to know what motivates you to keep on creating?
Oh,
money?
No, life. I think it's like every time you try, it doesn't even need to be something new. You just try something under a different context, different pretense, and you're like, oh damn, it already starts to like bleed into who I am. The works just come naturally. The works are like that itch.
The works are like that.
It's like walking into a mosquito farm and then getting bitten. But allowing yourself to walk in there and get bitten by mosquitoes, and then after that scratching it. The scratching it is like the painting. This is a horrible analogy. The
scratching it is like a painting. I think if you were to die, let's say tomorrow, you'll be remembered for that particular sentence. I think that's a very profound sentence.
I'm gonna get a lot of shit for it, but whatever.
What?
I'm gonna get a lot of shit for it, but whatever.
Why?
It's like mosquitoes, dude, for real? Seriously?
But I think it goes back into your idea of redefining what I won't say language, but what particular words mean, like what is paint or what is light, because you are, in your particular practice, it seems like you're trying to conflate the two. You're trying to blur the boundaries between light as paint and paint as light, and I think that is a very interesting way of looking at things.
Yeah, I think it goes without saying to like even the way like we look at things, right? Like, again, perceptory precepts, right? These precepts are how we define our reality for ourselves. Yeah, it's about like exploring that. Like, if you change the context of something and then suddenly the way you look at it becomes different, then your understanding of it becomes different. Your reality becomes different. It's as simple as that, I think. Like the idea that I'm trying to explore. It's a very difficult concept to try to like emulate in something physical and tangible, like an artwork. But it is something that I cannot help but like look into anyways, because that's really the way I look at like the world around me.
But even the idea of it manifesting into the artwork, it's kind of like a drop in the ocean. In a way, it's kind of insignificant in a sense, because if it's like 1 out of let's say you live to, I don't know, 80, you create like 5,000 more. That is quite insignificant in a sense.
Yeah, like I've never really been like too caught up with like significant.
Okay.
You know, I just want to create an experience that allows people to think or feel, or allows people, full stop.
Does that wanting to create an experience, does it reflect back to yourself as well when you're doing it?
Yeah, for sure. You know, like it's an experience for me to make the works. It's an experience for me to look at the works. It's an experience for me to install it and then subsequently look at how people receive it. Yeah, they're all very, very important parts, I think. And the conversations that come out after it, so intense.
So it's satisfactory in that sense.
Yeah, you could say so. Yeah, because like if I get satisfaction out of a life lived, being able to try. Yeah.
All right. I think.
Yeah. That's it.
I think outside of this artistic bent, I'm just curious to know: are there any particular sayings, writings, or philosophies that has informed the way you think of the world? Yeah.
2 words.
Just try.
I'm Batman. No. I mean, sayings.
Sayings, sentences, people, mentors.
Yeah.
What has helped you what has helped you make things clear?
Oh, okay. Oh, this is cheesy, but I love this guy. His name is Matthew Mcconaughey. All right.
I'm not too familiar.
Okay, Matthew McConaughey, he's an actor.
Okay.
He gave a speech. I think it was for Oscars. I can't remember. He gave a speech and he talked about who his hero was.
Okay.
And this was a good speech. So essentially, like he said, his hero was him in 10 years. Right, I think he was young, maybe like 15. I don't know. Let's make up an arbitrary age.
Yeah,
15. And then when he was 25, the same person asked him, "So are you your hero yet?" And he said, "No, nowhere close. My hero is still me in 10 years." You know, and that's it. Like that really sticks with me because it's not any end goal that you're trying to achieve. It's not any end state. But it's rather this idea that you are constantly chasing and you're constantly pursuing an idea of what you could be. You know, the ideals that you hold for yourself and the aspirations that you will always continue to grow and have. I think that is like very special.
So that has stuck out to you? Very
much so. Very, very much so, yeah.
Because do you know why it stuck out to you?
Yeah, because I don't like things being ultimate. I think I like things being like a conversation that you can constantly have and allowing things the space to grow, allowing things the space to like develop. And you know, sometimes endings feel like endings, but like we don't really have that. I think, or we're not really in control of that.
Of endings.
Sometimes, yeah. You know?
Sure, yeah.
You could like end a relationship with a loved one.
Yep.
But it doesn't really mean the end of a relationship.
Unfortunately not. Things are not that simple. There is always things don't work. Or things don't function as how we want them to.
Yeah.
There is always what's the word for it? Things would always roll over for X amount of time, X amount of duration. There will always be, it's not like a straight cut, basically.
Yeah, and even the memory of that person or that relationship will carry on, you know? That's great. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah.
I guess in closing, I just want to know, what was something that you consumed recently that surprised you?
Consumed?
Yep. Not food-wise, but I guess media, something you watch, like a TikTok video, you saw yourself and you got surprised.
Wow, that's... I don't know, dude. Yeah.
I mean, you were the one who started the podcast saying that you are constantly being faced by 4 screens.
Oh, yeah, that's why it's so hard to answer. You know what I mean? You're like, so what have you consumed? And it was like, all this fucking like information overload that comes in.
But what was something, okay, let's to broaden that question a little bit. What was something that perhaps someone said recently that you didn't take to at first, but after a while you realized that, hey, that's true?
Oh, yeah. Wait, sorry, I'm trying to put this thought together. It's a bit random.
Random elevator music coming in.
Okay, I think it was that firstly that oh man, I really don't know how to explain this. Okay.
Song and dance.
That it's not necessarily about having an answer for everything, but was about having a good argument for it. Yeah, I know.
I'm a bit stumped here.
Yeah. It's a little bit of like a weird thing to wrap your head around.
So how did you feel when you first heard that?
Yeah, I was like, I think it's very inherent, like, to live a life where you need to get answers. You need to feel like there is an answer to something, to everything.
Answer is like a control, like you have control over something.
Yeah, like there is...
Like I know if I open the door later, the door will open.
Yeah.
I mean, what if we open the door, the door doesn't open?
Yeah, or like, can you open that door? And then you're like, I don't know, can you? Like you're like, what the fuck? And then now you want to try to open the door. Yeah, but it's like that it was. I think the point of it was that, or at least the takeaway that I got from this conversation was that it wasn't so much that there was an answer for everything, right? It could be as abstract concept like, is there a moral truth?
A moral truth. Okay.
To which, how the fuck are you gonna know what the moral truth is? But
exactly.
But there could be an argument for it, and the argument for it will lead to an amazing conversation.
Yes.
Right? Or like at least a showcase
of both ideas.
Yeah. Like, is there an inherent right and wrong, or are there aliens on Mars again? Is there, but it's not so much I think the answer, but it's the argument, the conversation that is special, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, can you imagine you lead your life wondering, like, meeting all these people, having all these conversations, and these things that fire you up about the curiosities you have about the universe, and then you meet this person, right? And then you have this conversation with them. You don't even get to have the conversation, and they just go up to you and they're like, yes. Then what?
And then the movie ends.
Yeah, and you're like, okay. Yeah. I really, like, sure, like, it's great to define your life. It's great to if you
have a sense of security, really.
Yeah. If you need to, wrap your head around things, like, it's good. Go for it, right? If it helps you lead your life. But I think, like, that's the point. You need to lead your life.
But wouldn't that mean that, because having a sense of, I think it's the word between assurance and security with regards to knowing how things work and stuff, having a certain level of mastery. Let's talk about skills, but having a certain level of knowledge, do you think that feeds the ego more? Because if not having an answer to things, it just feels like chaos.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be chaos.
Okay.
I think that's at least, I think, in my mind. Like, uncertainty is very inherent in everybody, I think. You never really, you can't read the future. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yep.
It's just like embracing that.
Embracing the uncertainty.
Yeah.
Even
and letting it take you where it needs to take you.
Despite the anxiety that comes with it.
So that's the part that we need to work on, right? You can't change the future without knowing what's going to happen. But you can, like, work on your perspectives. I'm not saying I don't have anxiety. Of course I have anxiety. I think like a lot of people in Singapore have anxiety. A lot of people in the world have anxiety. Yep. And that's something that we can work on. We can work on ourselves, you know? But that's the point. You know, it's the conversation. It's not about the answer. Yeah. It's about how good an argument you can have. Yeah.
All right. This has been a juicy conversation. Can you please plug your socials? Where can people find you?
You can find me. Oh no. Okay, choose an answer correctly. All right. You can find me if you're up for my nonsense at Neekruz on Instagram.
What the fuck is Neekruz? Can you spell it?
Neekruz. If you're interested in my work, you can follow me at, God, do I even remember my handle?
Nicholas Ong Studio.
Nicholas Ong _studio. I think. Well, yeah. Nicholas Ong _studio.
This just shows how badly he needs a manager.
Yeah, shout out anybody.
Do you have a website?
I do have a website. Website is nicholasongstudio.com.
Okay.
That one's easy to remember.
So after everything you just said over the past 2 hours, why the bland name?
Why the bland name? I don't know. Because I'm not very good with names. I mean, I'm sorry I couldn't come up with something like Cosmic Children or Tell Your Children. I mean, dude, 21 Moonstone was named after the little address. It was the address. Oh my god.
Okay, yeah. Do you have anything upcoming that you want to plug?
No, come follow me and then see what I'm up to. Mystery surprise.
He might be available on OnlyFans. Okay.
Maybe.
Thank you for the conversation and thank you for the time, Nick.
No, thank you very much, Kevin. You are my special pancake.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode and feel inspired. If you enjoyed what you heard thus far, do give us a follow on Instagram. And don't forget to share and subscribe. Stay tuned for the next episode.